During premiere night, Zoe McGrady, a participant on Bachelor Season 29, began to develop a close bond with Grant Ellis. However, do they ultimately become engaged? Currently residing in Houston, Texas, Grant, a 31-year-old day trader originally from Newark, New Jersey, is looking for his bride among 25 ladies. He stated that becoming a husband and father was his life's purpose when competing on Gen Tran's Bachelorette season. Zoe, a 27-year-old tech engineer and model from New York, New York, brought a t-shirt gun with shirts featuring her and Grant's faces printed on them for her limousine arrival during the Bachelor Season 29 premiere. "Every power couple needs some merch," she remarked, adding that she believed they would make a fantastic power couple. Some of the shirts ended up in the pool after they were thrown into the Bachelor Mansion's patio. Grant learned how to shoot the rifle from Zoe, and they enjoyed throwing the shirts into the air. They kissed later, but will Grant eventually pop the question to Zoe? In their one-on-one conversation on the Bachelor Season 29 premiere, Zoe revealed to Grant that she was essentially a nerd as a child. She studied engineering at Duke University. Reality Steve claims that Zoe is eliminated following her overnight fantasy suite date, rather than getting engaged to Grant at the conclusion of the Bachelor Season 29. It's interesting to note that Reality Steve mentioned on his website that he had heard that Zoe and Grant never had a one-on-one encounter during the season. But Zoe, Juliana Pasquarosa, Lisha Gar, and Dina Lupencu were among the 4 ladies who made it to Grant's final 4. Reality Steve disclosed on Instagram that the filming of Zoe's hometown date took place in New York on October 13, 2024. After his hometown dates, Grant bid farewell to Dina, leaving Juliana, Lisha, and Zoe as his final 3 women, according to a different Instagram post by Reality Steve. The Dominican Republic was the location of their overnight fantasy suite dates. Grant then got rid of Zoe, leaving Juliana and Lisha as his last 2 women. Reality Steve also disclosed on Instagram that Grant and Juliana are engaged, meaning that the final rose ceremony was taped in the Dominican Republic, where Grant proposed to her. Grant's runner-up was Lisha. More people than ever are watching reality TV. These are a few of the top reality TV series available for streaming or viewing at the moment, while there are many more to pick from. Zoe deserves to find the love she's looking for since she is an amazing person. It's great that Grant found love at the end of his season, even though it's unfortunate to hear that they didn't become engaged. Because she would be ideal for the part, Zoe might be able to carry on her quest for love in a later season of The Bachelorette. Zoe McGrady had never been one to believe in fairy tales. She wasn't someone who watched The Bachelor and dreamed of being swept off her feet. But there she was, walking toward the gleaming mansion that would be her home for the next few weeks, and something about the whole experience felt different. Maybe it was the idea of finding love amidst the chaos, or maybe it was the possibility of creating a new chapter in her life that felt like the beginning of something real. She had joined the show after a series of failed relationships, one heartbreak too many. Zoe wasn't the type to wear her emotions on her sleeve, but beneath her calm, collected demeanor was a woman with a lot to prove, to herself as much as to others. She had nothing left to lose. She had come to this journey because, deep down, she believed that love could still be found even in the most unpredictable of circumstances. As the limo came to a stop and she stepped out, she could feel the weight of the cameras watching her every move. Her heart thudded in her chest as she caught her first glimpse of Grant Ellis, the handsome bachelor with an enigmatic smile. There was an air of mystery about him. He had been burned in the past and carried the weight of his previous relationships like armor. But as their eyes met, Zoe felt an inexplicable pull toward him, something she hadn't anticipated. "Hi, I'm Zoe," she said, giving him a smile that was both shy and hopeful. She extended her hand, and when he shook it, something passed between them, an electric spark. There was an undeniable chemistry, but Zoe wasn't about to let her guard down just yet. She wasn't here to be just another contestant. She was here to find something real. Grant's deep blue eyes met hers, and there was a flicker of something there, though it was quickly masked by his calm and collected demeanor. "Nice to meet you, Zoe. I'm glad you're here." As she walked away to join the other women, Zoe couldn't help but wonder if this was the beginning of something special, or if she was just another face in the crowd vying for his attention. The first few weeks on The Bachelor were a blur of dates, group activities, and endless conversations. Zoe was no stranger to competition, but this environment was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The women in the house were eager, ambitious, and desperate for a connection with Grant. The pressure of the cameras and the constant scrutiny from the outside world made everything feel heightened. Still, Zoe remained focused. She wasn't here for the drama, she was here for the chance to find love. The first group date was a whirlwind. A game of truth or dare quickly turned into a test of emotions as Zoe found herself in the hot seat. It was her turn to answer a question that seemed innocuous at first: what is your biggest fear? But when she opened her mouth to speak, she found herself saying the one thing she had kept hidden for so long. My biggest fear is giving my heart away and having it be trampled on again, Zoe admitted, her voice shaking slightly. It wasn't the easiest thing to say, but she knew she had to be honest. Vulnerability wasn't easy for her, but here, it felt necessary. The room fell silent for a moment, and Zoe's heart raced. She felt exposed, unsure of how others would react. But then, she looked across the room and saw Grant. His eyes were soft, understanding, and for a brief moment, it was as if the world around them faded away. He knew the pain of heartbreak all too well. It was clear that Grant wasn't just looking for someone who could fit into his life, he was looking for someone who truly understood what it meant to be vulnerable, to be human. Later that night, during the cocktail party, Zoe and Grant shared a quiet moment alone. He asked her about her fear, and they spoke honestly about their pasts. For Zoe, it was a revelation. In Grant, she saw someone who was more than just a handsome face, he was someone who could potentially heal her broken heart. I'm afraid of losing myself in someone else, Zoe confessed, her voice soft. I've done that before. And when it ended, I didn't know who I was anymore. Grant's expression softened. I understand. It's easy to lose yourself in a relationship, but I think the right person will help you find yourself again, not take you away from it. For the first time since she'd arrived, Zoe felt hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. As the weeks went by, Zoe's connection with Grant only deepened. However, the competition was getting fiercer. The other women in the house were also vying for his attention, and with each passing day, the stakes grew higher. Zoe tried to stay focused, but the constant drama and tension were beginning to wear on her. One of the women, Allison, had made it clear from the beginning that she would stop at nothing to win Grant's heart. She had a way of making everyone else feel small, and her passive-aggressive comments toward Zoe were no exception. Allison saw Zoe as a threat and made it her mission to undermine her every chance she got. Zoe, however, wasn't easily rattled. She refused to let Allison's behavior get under her skin, but deep down, the tension was beginning to wear her down. I don't know how you do it, one of the other women, Rachel, said to Zoe after a particularly tense conversation with Allison. I would have lost it by now. Zoe shrugged, her eyes tired. I'm not here to fight with anyone. I'm here to see if this could actually work with Grant. But the doubts were starting to creep in. The deeper she fell for Grant, the more she realized that the show was doing everything in its power to complicate things. It wasn't just about love, it was about creating drama, about stirring emotions to keep the viewers hooked. Every week, Zoe found herself questioning whether the connection they shared was real, or if it was just another product of the show's carefully crafted narrative. It wasn't until the hometown dates that Zoe began to see things more clearly. After weeks of second-guessing and wondering if this was all too good to be true, she finally allowed herself to fully embrace the possibility of a future with Grant. Grant came to her hometown, where Zoe introduced him to her family. Her parents, skeptical at first, quickly warmed to him. The moment that stood out, however, was when Zoe's younger brother, Tom, took Grant aside to talk to him privately. Listen, Tom said, his voice serious. I don't know what's going on in your head right now, but you need to know that Zoe is a catch. She's been through a lot, and she's put herself out there in ways I haven't seen her do before. If you don't see that, then you're making a huge mistake. Grant listened intently, his expression softening as he processed Tom's words. He knew the pressure of making the right decision, but seeing Zoe in her own world, surrounded by the people who loved her, solidified something inside him. This was real. What they shared wasn't just a fleeting moment, it was something that could last. The night of the final rose ceremony arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Zoe had never been more nervous in her life. She had made it this far, and now, everything was about to come to a head. Grant had narrowed it down to her and one other woman, and though she had tried to prepare herself for the possibility of rejection, the thought of walking away without him was unbearable. As the ceremony unfolded, the tension was palpable. Grant gave the first rose to the other woman, and Zoe's heart sank. But then, as he turned to her, his expression softened. "Zoe," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "From the moment you stepped out of that limo, something about you stood out. I've watched you grow and open up in ways that I didn't expect. And tonight, I want to take a chance on you. I want to see where this goes. Will you accept this rose?" Zoe's heart leaped in her chest. She had won. The moment she had hoped for had finally arrived. Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded, unable to speak. She had come here to find love, and now she had found it in the most unexpected place. Zoe and Grant's relationship continued to blossom outside of the show. The pressures of reality TV faded, and they found solace in each other. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were both willing to fight for what they had found. Their love wasn't a product of a television show, it was real.